Asian Environment Dialogue. Those of you who look this program, see this program regularly know that we discuss a range of issues on environment and climate change and related social sectors in this program. Today, we are going to have our 14th episode. In the last 13 episodes, we have discussed rivers, we have discussed climate finance, we have discussed air pollution and whatnot. But today we are going to discuss an issue which is now raging in India. And not only India, I think it's now an international issue with people commenting from various parts of the world, is the farm bills, is the agriculture. So we are taking the farm bill issue today, and not only the farm bills and agriculture per se, what's happening in India right now, but also the implication. There are a lot of questions being asked about the agriculture and the future of it. Is it viable? Is the landholding is a problem? Is the climate change kind of eating into the agriculture? There are so many questions. And we have a great panel to discuss this. Let me introduce the panel to all of you before we can go on for the program. Let me introduce Anshuman Das. Anshuman is the Program Manager, South Asia of World Hunger Life, India. Anshuman, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I know that you have a wealth of information, and we'll be all hearing what you are kind of share with us.
Thank you, Jayanpada. Good evening.
Thank you. I have Farida Akhtar. Farida Akhtar is the Executive Director of UBI NIG, a policy and development research organization from Bangladesh. And I know Farida ji has huge experience in the agriculture sector of Bangladesh. So when we'll be talking about these Indian laws, we'll be also very keen to know what's happening in Bangladesh. What's happening in Bangladesh and how you perceive the situation out there. So Farida ji, we're all keen to hear from that part of the world. I have with me Ashok Kumar. Ashok Kumar is a patron of Natural Farmers Association Punjab. Punjab is a hotbed of this movement, and Ashok Kumar ji, we really would like to know what the Punjab farmers are thinking about this movement. And in fact, I should also say that we have another person from Punjab with us, Tarsen Singh. He's in the border at this point of time. He's in the border, part of the movement, have very poor bandwidth. So we all expect that we'll be able to hear him and see him at some point of time. Let's hope for the best. And definitely last but not the least, we have Professor Parthiva Basu. Professor Basu is a Calcutta University professor in zoology, and I know he has long experience working in the agricultural sector. And we'll be keen to know about the climate change issues and the environmental issues, how they're impacting the whole process of agriculture in this predominantly agrarian part of the world. The part of the world we are talking about, the South Asia, is predominantly agrarian. So it's very key that how agriculture pans out in this part of the world. And that's why this whole movement is very important. So that's what we are. And let me before we go on for Anshuman to take the first question, let us see a small kind of capsule of what the global leaders and others are talking about this whole agenda of farm bills in India, not only from India, also from other parts of the world, and then we'll take on the questions. So let us first hear that what the leaders are talking about it.
The news coming out of India about the protest by farmers. The situation is concerning, and we're all very worried about family and friends. I know that's the reality for many of you. Let me remind you, Canada will always be there to defend the right of peaceful protest. We believe in the importance of dialogue, and that's why we've reached out through multiple means directly to the Indian authorities to highlight our concerns. This is a moment.
सुधार ये कानून रातों रात नहीं आए हैं। पिछले 20-22 साल से इस देश की हर सरकार ने, राज्यों की सरकार ने इस पर व्यापक चर्चा की है।
मोड़ देते हैं उन्ना 30 बंदियां दी चोण कर लियो जेड़े ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਦਾ ਬਾਈਕਾਟ
Well, now we are going to the first part. Let me bring Anshuman into the discussion first. Anshuman, I think let us understand what these farm bills are all about and why so many farmers are opposing it. If you can briefly, pointedly let us know that what's this all about. Anshuman.
Yes. Thank you, Jantada. So there are many nuances to this bill, these bills actually. So there are three bills which are actually not farmers bill, farm bill. It is actually a kind of a farm market bill kind of thing. And the first question itself is why the government choose this particular time without any discussion, very quickly, very
No, but
hurriedly.
Anshuman,
Yeah.
just to interrupt you,
Yeah.
I think for the larger audience, because we are having audience from North America, Canada, and rest part of the world. So they may not be knowing about the bills per se. So what
I will-
exactly the bills are and what they are trying to do. If you can briefly, because I can tell that these three bills, I think Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Bill,
Yeah.
the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance, and Essential Commodities Act. These three bills are there.
Yes.
And let me share with the audience that these bills have been already being passed in Indian Parliament, and also I think in 27th of September, President also has allowed the bill. So they are now formal laws now, as of now, and that's when the protest started. And the protest is ongoing for more than 40 days now at the border of Delhi, the capital of India. So it's another way of capital being attacked, a different way that we know what's happened in US, but it's another way of attacking the capital in a way. So Anshuman, please let us know very quickly what the bills are.
Yes. So no, what I was trying to say is that the process was also very undemocratic, like very quickly, very hurriedly that has been
But
brought.
let us first know the bills first.
Yeah. So one bill is basically Essential Commodity Act, where we are trying to say that there will be, the food items, mainly rice, pulses, oil seeds. So these items will not be treated as essential commodity anymore. So you can store them. You can store them in an unlimited way. You can store, any amount, and only if the price becomes 100% more than the last 5 years average, then only government will have a role to, government will try to control the price.
During war and etc.
During war and
during war and
yes. So
At emergency
at emergency. So essentially, if your
emergencies.
something is costing today 50 rupees, if it is up to 99 rupees, nobody will control this.
Fine, that's one part of it.
So that is one part of it. There are many nuances, but this is the main thing.
Main features.
Yeah. So we are expecting that this is not only about farmers, but generally the consumers also will have to buy, in a much larger price. So that was one. The second thing is this Farmers Produce and Trade and Commerce Bill, where basically we are saying that the bill is saying that the farmers are now able to sell anywhere. So this is a sugar coated thing. The other thing is that means the control of mandi, the APMC, the Agriculture Produce Market Committee, so that will not be effective anymore. That's not directly saying, that's not
So
directly
basically it will be
mentioned.
privatized.
Basically it will be privatized. Basically,
Anshuman, I
it will
think
be
you should
privatized.
quickly also say a few words about what is APMC
Okay, Patul,
is all
I'll
about.
be coming to you. I'll be coming to on the same issue also.
Yeah.
First, let Anshuman kind of spell out.
No, I just think
Anshuman.
that APMC
Yeah,
has to be
trying to quickly brief what is there. And so they're saying that the farmers will be, can do trading online, can do, they can sell wherever way, whatever price it may be. So that's open market now, open market for everyone. Even the state government will also.
No, if I'm a devil's advocate, Anshuman, if I'm a devil's advocate, I may counter that if it is open for everybody, what's the harm in it?
Yes, so I can give you an example of Bihar. So in Bihar in 2006, these kind of mandi is withdrawn. So APMC is withdrawn. So there is no committee who is controlling the price and who is buying from the farmer anymore. So, and the I was going through a statistic that in Punjab, on an average, one farmer earns around 2,16,000 rupees on an average
In a year.
in a year. And in Bihar, it's 42,000 rupees.
Okay.
So you can well imagine that, I mean, this withdrawal of government control and withdrawal of this APMC committee, it didn't help much actually.
Okay. Let me ask you a very straight question. What the major harms and pitfalls you expect from this when this farm laws will be enacted, or if they enacted in the first place? What are the major pitfalls? What are the major problems you envisage?
Okay, so one major thing is India is largely a smallholder farmers country. So 65% of the farmers are smallholders. So
Sure.
they are anyway not getting any support of the market. So 65% of the produce that is sold in the market are not under MSP, not under minimum support price. So anyway, the market structure is kind of not working for the small farmers.
Okay.
So
Okay.
again, opening up means, I mean, you are not only risking the large farmers, Punjab and Haryana farmers and all the farmers, because they are getting all this support of minimum support price, but you are also not supporting the smallholder farmers, because
So
smallholder
basically,
farmers,
what you are saying, that these new acts which are being brought by this the BJP-led government, basically in the name of reform, they are not going to kind of actually benefit the farmers as they are meant to be. And you say the market will take over, the privatization will take over, and the farmers will suffer. So that's basically the points you are trying to bring on table. So I'll come to you, but before that, I'll come to you.
Okay.
But let me go to Ashok Kumar. Ashok Kumar ji, in Punjab, we'll be discussing this, that whether this act is actually kind of cutting across the country is similarly affecting the farmers or not. That's a question being raised by the political parties, especially the BJP, that these are perhaps affecting the Punjab farmers, but may not be the Bihar farmers or the Bengal farmers. We'll be knowing about it. But before that, tell me about the Punjab situation. Why you were so aggrieved about it? It's all about opening the economy. Why you were aggrieved about it, Ashok Kumar ji?
That is the narrative that has been propagated by the government. And there is one tacit agreement between farmers and unions, that is the need of the reforms. So what Punjab has seen is over the years, in last 5 decades, so APMC Act 1961, Punjab started building up infrastructure. It is said that all this boil, it has come because of high yielding seeds or fertilizers, but it was the basic network, the Punjab Mandi Board, that has created not only village level markets, collection centers. There are APMC markets for almost 350 square kilometers, and 84 on an average, 84 villages are covered by one APMC regulated market. And 84 on an average, 84 villages are covered by one APMC regulated market. To supply to those regulated markets, there are village level markets also. To supply to those regulated kind of infrastructure Punjab is having. Second thing they have done is they have linked with the roads. Like Punjab Mandi Board has been authorized by the government for building the roads. These are metal roads which have been built over there in 20 or 30 years. So that was the infrastructure that Punjab has built. Now what has happened is, over the last 3 decades, there is a stagnation in the yields, wheat as well as paddy, which is the main crop. 85% area in the winter is wheat, and in summer season, it's almost 75%. So farmers have over all these years experienced that they have almost lost the knowledge of other crops. Say for oil seeds and pulses, area is much less than 1%. Same is the sugar cane or cotton crops. They are very much lesser in area coverage. And Punjab is a state when you're talking about.
But what wrong with these farm bills?
I'm coming to this. So as per this act, the Punjab is not having any experience of dealing with the other markets. So what farmers are doing, they are doing business with the government only. there are FCI also, and there are 4 agencies.
Basically,
in
you are
India.
saying that they do
There
the
is no
business with the
infrastructure
government
in
only.
place for this transition.
Okay.
And farmers
okay.
have no experience at all. That is the apprehension of the unions, that when there is no infrastructure, we have the infrastructure only for MSP-based procurement by the market, by
So
the government.
let me ask you a straight
So that
question,
is the
Ashok
apprehension
Kumarji.
that without any infrastructure for alternative system, Punjab farmer will lose in the market.
I
And
understand.
as far as other part of the country are concerned, so they will have effect later on, but Punjab may have effect very early.
No, I
of these
understand.
things. That is the apprehension.
Just one question, that very straight question. Do the Punjab farmers believe that they don't believe the corporates? Apparently, that's been coming out. It's basically boils down to the mistrust. The farmers are not believing what the government is saying, and they also do not seem to have belief on the corporates who are coming into the market. That's the case, Ashok Kumarji.
No, that is also a narrative fallacy. If, like Bihar example, Anshumanji has told that APMC Act has been abolished in 2006. They haven't implemented it. But these farmers are not getting MSP or higher prices from MSP. So that is a very clear cut that only Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, MP and Andhra, they are getting some benefits. But other places where it was already an
Not
open
getting
market,
benefit.
so they are not getting any benefit.
Okay.
So
So
that is very clear.
That's very clear. And I think a lot of your friends have been, in fact, we are trying to connect to Tarsem Singh, but we are not able to. I think, I don't know whether we'll be able to, but really we are keen to hear him.
There's a network problem.
We are very keen to hear him. He's in the border and he's a Tikri border, and we want to hear him. But anyway, let me go to Professor Parthiva Basu. Parthiva, we'll be discussing the environment and climate change. That can wait for a while. Let me know from also you that just now Ashok Kumarji himself has conceded that the existing laws as they are mostly benefit the so-called kind of quoted, unquoted, the big farmers, the farmers in the Bihar, Haryana, and likewise. And many in the political party in BJP are saying that these new acts are going to actually help out the small farmers and the kind of a state like West Bengal. You are from West Bengal. What's your take on that? How you take on these farm bills?
You see, this government has done one good thing with these laws. You know, if that's my take is, they have really unified the rich farmer and the small poor farmer, and also the village level middleman. So that's the positive take from this entire thing, if you ask me. It is so these 3 laws. The first law is that I would call that APMC bypass law.
Okay.
It basically bypasses the APMCs, which are acts enacted 60s and 70s, etc., and on which the state governments had a control. So with this new law, the states will not have much control over the market which exists outside the APMC or the mandis, and the central government takes the overall control over whatever transacts outside the APMCs or the mandis. And given by the track record of this present government with all the different kinds of policies and laws that they're bringing, I mean, from environment to education, everywhere, in all different, even in labor laws, etc., they are favoring quite overtly. They are favoring the big capital, big monopoly capital corporates. That's written. That's their written policy, almost written policy. Number 2, the second law is the I call it pro hoarding law. So that really allows hoarding, and
allowing the hoarding.
Allowing hoarding, right? And if you allow to hoard, and who will hoard? See, in the West, I mean, what the West has seen and done over the last 60, 70 or 7-8 decades, we are kind of reinventing the wheel here. Well, the West is now learning from the mistakes, and they are trying to go back to the smallholder, small production system. We are trying to
actually going the other way around.
do away with the small production system.
Yes.
We are going in for a large industrial agribusiness.
So it's basically a hoarding law, as you say.
It's a hoarding law.
What was the third one?
The third
I just want
law.
to add.
We'll come one by one. We'll come one by one. We'll come one by one. Ashok Kumarji, please.
And the third law is basically a pro-contract farming law. It basically allows contract farming in one way. Now,
It's interesting, Parthiva, that one of the major corporate being targeted has issued a statement, public statement, saying that we are not in the contract farming. We don't intend to be in the contract farming.
That's, I mean, nothing can be funnier than that, if you ask me.
Yes, actually.
Nothing can be funnier than that. I know about this. I'm not going to, name this.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Corporate. And in Bengal, because I'm from Bengal, I know, I mean, historically, we have seen what contract farming has done to Bengal
But
farmers.
I'll come to you, but very quick response.
Indigo Act and the Indigo.
That's a history. That's a history in Bengal.
History.
The Indigo Act, the development,
And the
movement
contract
and all.
farming has, just give me a second, Jayanto. This contract farming, I have serious concern as an ecologist, as an agroecologist, because I think contract farming is going to be disastrous for the agri environment.
Fine.
That's my
Just a quick supplementary question, and please do a quick supplementary answer. Is that many people are saying that these laws may be impacting the big farmers like Ashok Kumar ji and his kind of clan in the Punjab, but not really the Bengal farmers are not really affected. What's your take on it? Are the Bengal farmers okay with the new laws? They should be okay with this?
Of course.
Ashok
Of
Kumar
course,
ji?
Bengal farmers are affected. See,
Sorry,
Bengal farmers
particular.
started getting affected the moment government stopped to procure, crops from the farmers. During about a decade ago,
Okay.
during the past regime, government used to buy crops through the cooperatives, panchayats, etc.
Yes.
That whole system got stopped, and the middlemen, they took control of the entire procurement system. So with the new law, the entire crop procurement system is going to go haywire. That is number one. Hoarding will definitely affect the Bengal farmers as much as any farmer
Sure.
wherever in the country. And contract farming, definitely we are in Bengal.
Okay.
Contract
So-
farming is already raging.
So it
there
will
are
affect the
few of
Bengal farmers
companies
as well.
who are- yeah,
It will affect the
as
Bengal
much,
farmers.
as
Great.
much.
Farida ji, other side of the Bengal, and you have heard the Indian representative is talking about the new farm laws and how it is panning out, how it is impacting various parts of it. How it is in Bangladesh? You are in the agriculture sector. You have seen this sector very closely for a long, long time. What's the situation in Bangladesh? What are the existing laws, and are you happy with that?
Okay, what I will say first about the Indian situation now and
Yes.
about the farmers' protest in Delhi, we have been watching it every day almost, and I would first like to say that the problem started with the modern agriculture. As Ashok Kumar ji was saying that Punjab farmers have forgotten about many other crops because it was monoculture that was promoted through Green Revolution. So Punjab is the place to start with Green Revolution. And then also, there are big tractors coming to the Delhi, which you will not see in Bangladesh, this kind of big tractor, use of big tractors. And but the question is about the price of the crops. Actually, in Bangladesh, our parliament did not pass any law,
Okay.
but it is there, all the bad effects of not having any, there is neither government control, it is actually privatized, and it is totally uncontrolled market in the agriculture sector. So like, for example, when onion is produced by our farmers and they get very low price, and suddenly government plans to import from India.
Okay.
And then now, for example, I can give you one example that now they have, it is the season for onions in the market, and suddenly government is bringing in a lot of onions from India. If the onion did not come from India, then the farmers would have got at least taka 45 per kg, whereas the Indian onions are being sold at taka 20. So
Okay.
you can see that how the farmers are feeling competition with the
Okay.
Indian crops, and also due to other crop losses, which we will maybe talking afterwards
Okay.
on climate change issues.
Okay, I'll be coming to that. I'll be coming to that. But a very
now,
quick question.
our government is basically depending on like the import and also bringing in from others. And also, I would like to say that 85% of our farmers are small scale farmers owning less than 1 hectare of land.
Okay.
And so this is very serious for the small farmers.
So basically you are saying that the Bangladesh government is predominantly having an import-oriented agriculture policy and not really encouraging its own farmers the way it should have been.
Yes, or I would not say that they are consciously talking about import as a policy.
But that's how it comes out.
The problem, the solution becomes import from India or Vietnam or somewhere, yes.
Okay. So it's basically an import orientation. I'll come to you to know more about this, how the climate change and the other issues are impacting agriculture. I'll come to you later. Farida ji.
I would like to add one point here.
Sure.
When they were talking about contract farmers, in Bangladesh, there is this contract farming going on with tobacco cultivation. And it is very much going on by the British American Tobacco Company is bringing in the farmers with contract. It's called company card, and they are forced to cultivate tobacco in the land where we are supposed to grow food. So this is also seen
very important. I think the contract farming also happening out there. Anshuman, now we have heard about it, and we have heard how this whole movement in India is being impacting, and also we see that the people from and the kind of even the political personalities all over the world are being discussing it. The Canadian Prime Minister and other parts of the world are also discussing it. But where we are leading to, the farmers has laid a siege on Delhi border. They have been staying there. They are saying that we are prepared to sit for months. Ashok Kumar ji can confirm that. And government is having round after round. We are now having 6 or 7 rounds of talks, but leading to nowhere. They have been proposed some kind of amendments, but these are not being acceptable to the farmers. Where we are leading to? Are you as an expert, as an agriculture expert, are you finding a middle way, or it's a kind of no middle way as of now? Anshuman, what's your point?
See, one good thing about this is, as Parthipada was also sharing, I think the dignity of the farming community has been brought back.
That's qualitative. I'm talking about the quantitative. What exactly is going to happen after this movement? That is a very important thing to know.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring in. So, and there are also many young generation farmers we have seen in the movement. So that is one good thing. The second thing is the farmers are talking about two very specific demands. One is this MSP has to be a legalized right, that everything has to be sold under MSP. So the MSP has to be a legal right. So that is one. And the second thing
but our agriculture minister has said that MSP will be legalized in some form or other. He has given it even a written.
So why don't they come up in writing anywhere? And why this is not mentioned in the bill? It's not there in the bill. So they're completely silent about MSP. So they're saying that
MSP is one part.
Yeah. So they are saying that we are not saying that MSP will not be there, but you are also not saying that MSP is a legal right to you. So I mean, this is one thing. And the second thing is the farmers are saying that the process itself, that's what I was trying to say at the beginning, the process itself was very undemocratic. So the base of these 3 bills are basically baseless. I mean, they have not discussed with any of the farming
completely bulldozed it. They completely bulldozed it to the parliament as well.
So it has to be repealed. These laws. So you have to start from the beginning. You have to start from the scratch.
So repeal is
bring everyone on board to discuss. And so these are the 2 things that farmers are wanting.
MSP and repeal.
Yes. And another important thing, which is the underlying thing, is like there are many unanswered questions, like what will happen to our PDS? What will happen to our public distribution system? Will government buy again crops on the farmers, or it will be again entirely corporatized? So PDS will go to the corporate, or will it be only cash transfer? And what will happen to the small farmers? Even in the contract farming, I mean, contract farming is one of the most ambiguous law that has been brought in. There's no clear structure.
So there's no clarity. There's lack of clarity on various other issues. Fine.
No clarity.
Great. Let bring Ashok Kumar ji on the table here. Ashok Kumar ji, the same question. What do you expect? See, demand is one thing, expectation at the bottom line is another thing. You really cannot expect to get everything what you demand. So, General, what is the Punjab's mindset now? With what you will be happy and be withdrawn from this movement, according to you, Ashok Kumarji?
Yes, sir. One thing I just want to add, it is 40 days at the Delhi border, and farmers have started mobilizing their unions and their workers beginning from the June itself. So it is going on. Toll plazas has been shut in Punjab since September. So that agitation, 2 months it went on in Punjab itself, only Punjab. Then they had government had asked for a meeting, but there were only secretaries available that meeting, and none of the ministers from the government were there. So farmers just walked out that we don't want to discuss with the
Secretaries
officers
are all
only.
bureaucrats.
So then they have planned this movement to Delhi. And while moving to Delhi, they have mobilized their cadre throughout the Punjab, and they have taken the ration with them. So Punjab has a history of Shahid Bhagat Singh's uncle Ajit Singh Ji. So they have led a movement about 100 years back that went up to 9 months. So they are prepared and they're already saying that we have taken the ration with us. When government tried to sabotage with the tags like Khalistan and radical elements,
Yeah.
so the general public have come up. Many prominent players and writers, they have given away their prices. They returned it back. One scientist from PAU, he has refused to accept a very prestigious award. That all these institutes are doing what government is planning. So there's nothing in the plan. So why there is apprehension about MSP? MSP is a secured policy. MSP is not the issue. Procurement at MSP is the issue. Only wheat and paddy is procured. Why Punjab is doing monocropping? There's no price for mustard. There's no prices for pulses. And MSP, why MSP is so important? If you see, in 1986, government run a program, National Technology Mission on Oilseed. Within a decade, India becomes self-sufficient in oilseed production. And there's some data suggests that there was some export also. What government did is they provided the basic facilities to farmer like seed, inputs, technical know-how, and there's a ban
No,
on
but
export.
Ashok Kumarji,
Then
okay,
there's
these things
higher
are there.
tariffs.
Ashok Kumarji,
That is
what do you
there.
expect
And now
to get from
farmer,
this
they are
movement?
ready. They know that yeah,
What do you
it
expect
will
to get from this
go
movement?
on and on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, farmer will ultimately win. Farmers
No,
will
win means
ultimately
what?
win. What is happening is
What is the benchmark of winning? What we
means
how you
government have
conceive a
to
win?
concede.
Uh-huh. You
Yeah,
want the
see, if you clearly see the four agendas, first agenda was not about only scrapping the laws. They have asked for modalities, what after to be done. So there is one
Okay.
consensus already that farmer wants reform, government wants reform. Now farmer want to be ex party to whatever is to be done. Scrapping these laws with future plan. What is the future plan? That is the
Okay.
call. Until unless that is not done, farmers will be there.
So this movement is going to continue till that happens. And you say that the Punjab farmers, maybe the Haryana farmers as well, Rajasthan, they are also joining. They have rations with them for a long haul. It's going to be a long haul on Delhi.
Yes.
So that's an absolutely unprecedented and fascinating movement.
It's not in Punjab. It's in Canada. Punjabis there. Canada. It's USA, Australia, UK. So they are protesting there also. And there are questions, there are discussions in UK and Canadian parliaments also. Many.
So you're getting support from there.
So that sort type of support is not there.
Okay. Okay, that's very important. I'll come to you on the related agenda, but let's go to Parthiboda again. Parthiboda, as an academician, and what do you feel? This is not really a very healthy thing to happen. The farmers who feed the country, we are basically an agrarian economy, and we have seen over the last few decades when the rest of South Asia and major part of the world have gone under the economic recession, India survived due to its agrarian kind of background. But this is a very unprecedented and I would say a very unfortunate development that farmers have to sit on the ground in this very kind of blistering wind and cold and rain and being fighting for them who feeds the country are being in a situation like this. But when it is going to end? What you think is a way out, Parthiboda?
You see, I mean, the first part of your question is also very important, and we should address that. What we see here is just one side of the story. The the backdrop of is the huge agrarian crisis that's been raging the country for the last few decades, couple of decades, so to say, which intensified over the last couple
Absolutely.
of decades. That needs to be discussed as well. But where is this heading to? Very clearly, the farmer, as Ashok said and Anshuman also said, very clearly. You see, these laws have very sinister, very dangerous kind of clauses in it. For example, the contract, let me just quickly mention this. As per this, this farm contract, this, contract farming law, if in case of any dispute between the farmer and the large industrial house who would be holding the contract, farmers do not have the right to go to the court.
Yes.
Right? So that's what can be more dangerous than that. So there are such sinister clauses in these three acts, and the farmers quite rightfully are saying that these laws have to be repealed. And
So that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line, and there cannot be any other discussion on that. Secondly, MSP, the government lied blatantly, made us blatant lie when they said that government accepted Swaminathan Commission's formulation that said, production cost plus 50%. That was MS Swaminathan Commission's, recommendation. And government, before that was the election promise also that they will implement Swaminathan Committee's recommendation. And Arun Jaitley, when he was alive, stated in the parliament that they have already implemented Swaminathan Commission's recommendation. They have not. So the bottom line is the government has to have a very clear policy and very clearly stated, documented stand on the minimum support price, not only for these crops, these 17 crops on which there are MSPs, but widen the bracket of MSP.
Okay.
Bring in the other kinds of crops which are outside the ambit of MSP.
Okay.
Why
And
only
make
this?
make it a legal right.
Make that a legal right, and it's going to, they're going to spread across the country. I tell you, this is not going to be just for Punjab. This is going to spread across the country.
Cutting across the country. That's very important. I'm going to Farida Appa, but before that, I put a question which I'll be also taking to Farida ji as well. Is that before this ad, it's not that everything was hunky-dory in the agricultural sector. We have seen that farmers committing suicides all across the country. So it's very clear that take out these laws. Even the previous laws were not good enough, or the previous, I would say, culture or whatever that we are heading to were not good enough for the agricultural sector of the country. So there definitely are pitfalls, and we need some kind of a reform. May not be the reform the way it has been brought in by the present government, and I can see a huge distrust between the government and the farmers. That's very palpably coming out. But I think also we need to discuss briefly, whatever the time we have in this program, is how this whole problem is kind of getting on. But before that, to Farida Akhtar ji. Farida ji, see, we discussed about this law issue, but agriculture I'm talking about Bangladesh, only your experience, is being affected by various agendas. There's landholding issue, there is climate change, there's environmental issue. How you perceive the agriculture heading to in general, talking about generally how it is going to in this age of climate change and environmental issues? Farida ji.
Okay, before answering that question, I want to just touch upon the Indian situation. Although we don't have like law, we have some policy like the agricultural policy and seed policy. And those are definitely against the farmers. There is no support. It always talks about corporate seeds. It talks about farmers. There is no term like farmer. It is called contract farmer. So already in the policies, they are going into the corporate agriculture, and big corporations like Syngenta, Monsanto, vegetables like with genetically modified crops, and also they are bringing in other corporations into it. So this is why we are also watching the Indian situation, because although we may not have passed the law, but the situation will come sooner or later similar to that one.
Sure.
But in Bangladesh, the agriculture situation is farmers, as you said before, that those people who are producing the food, they are not having enough income. But in Bangladesh, the agriculture situation is farmers, as you said before, that those people who are producing the food, they are not having enough income. When they produce, when we have a bumper crop, and that year farmers have less income because the price falls and there is nobody to buy. And also, like when the tomatoes are very good in terms of yield, farmers are selling at 10 taka or 2 taka at farmers level, whereas in Dhaka it is taka 30 or 40.
Okay.
So there is middleman issue. Is a big
Okay.
issue of middleman, and also they are controlling the market, and there is no way that the farmers are assured of a good price for their farms. And like rice is becoming, this year we have lost almond crop, which is the monsoon season rice,
Okay.
because of 6-time flood and also unpredictable rain. So they are facing all these problems, and we are losing many crops like that, and there is
Okay.
no support to the farmers for that.
So basically, it's minimum support from the government, as you were saying, and also you're talking about the kind of unseasonal rain. My personal experience in Bangladesh, I have been to Bangladesh a number of times, mainly in the Sundarban area or close to that. There's huge increase of salinity, and there is always, for the market-driven conversion from the agricultural field to kind of prawn and all that things. So that's already there. So do you think this climate change and environment are impacting? Is there a trend from the conventional agriculture to different form of agriculture? There's any plan of crop retiming, reorientation as being happening in various parts of the world to counter the climate change? Do the government has a plan on its hand?
Now, the increase in salinity in the southern when they produce, when we have just bumper natural, and that year's shrimp cultivation was because the price falls and saline water was brought in. And also, like when the tomatoes are very good, have this shrimp culture yield inside the farmers are selling at, and that's how it increased salinity. Farmers and so now they are not able to Dhaka it is reverse 30 or 40. And
Okay.
so there is middleman. Climate change is also a big issue, like middleman, and also they are controlling the market. And there is no way that the farmers are assured of a good price for irrigation. And like the water level is also this year we have lost almond crop, which is there. So monsoon season. Climate change is not just because of matter of 6-time flood, natural phenomena. It is predictable rain. So literally man-made. They are facing all these problems. So that is losing many crops. There are like there is no support to the farmers for that. The use of the chemicals
basically, it's
in
minimum support from the government, as you were saying, and also you're talking about the kind of unseasonal rain. My personal experience in Bangladesh, I have to a last question to you, but that later. But let me go to Sundarban area, close to that. About this huge increase of salinity, environment and climate, and there is always, as I was marketing driven, all of you, that conversion from the agricultural field before the farm to kind of prawn and all that things. So that's already there. So do you think this climate change and environment are impacting? Is there a trend from the conventional agriculture to different form of agriculture? There's any plan of crop retiming, reorientation as being happening in various parts of the world to counter the climate change? Do the government has a plan on its hand?
Now, the increase in salinity in the southern Bangladesh is not just natural, because shrimp cultivation was encouraged and the saline water was brought in for artificially, to have this shrimp culture inside the land. And that's how, it increased salinity. And so now they are not able to reverse it. And so the climate change is also affecting in like drought, through drought prone area. And because we have used deep tubes for irrigation, and the water level is also going down, and so the drought issue is there. So the climate change is not just a matter of natural phenomena. It is man-made, and literally man-made. And so that is there are like different technologies used. The use of the chemicals in agriculture is also destroying the crops. So that's how it is affecting.
I'll come to a last question to you, but that later. But let me go to Parthiboda again. Parthiboda, about this agenda of environment and climate change. As I was telling all of you that everything was not hunky-dory about agriculture before the farm bills. There are so many pitfalls. There's small landholding issue, there are climate change issues, there are environmental issues, there are pesticide issues. There's so many issues actually, both from the logistic part and other part. How you see this whole issues panning out, particularly the environment and climate change issues, Parthiboda?
You see, the climate change has been acting like a tipping point. Climate change is the one straw that broke the camel's back, kind of a thing. But things have been happening, and the state has been failing the farmers for a while. I tell you, about hardly 2.5% of agricultural GDP is spent on agricultural infrastructure. That's the number for the last couple of decades. The average is about between 2.5 to 2.6% of the whole agri GDP. And of course, there have been ecological externalities that's been increasing. And one of the major reasons for the agrarian crisis is that the soil is failing. Soil is diseased. So the amount of fertilizer and pesticide that you have to pump in, the cost goes up, the quantity goes up. So the land productive, so the input production efficiency is just tanking. It's just going south and south. So that's the major scenario. And government has taken a stand of kind of backing out, easing out of the whole scenario, leaving the entire farming community at large at the hands of the large shark industrial interests, industrial agriculture interests, and they just would try to do some minuscule regulation over the corporate. So that's the kind of stand the government has taken.
But that's very risky. That's a very risky way of going about it.
That's
extremely risky.
Nothing can be riskier than that, I tell you, Jayant. I know about how things have been happening in the West. I mean, first time experience of what has happened.
You mean to say that despite all this so-called climate action plan and everything, there is basically on the ground minimum planning for this kind of agriculture in this changing time?
I have been doing some study around the Midnapur coast of West Bengal, right? And a student who was doing some study there and wanted to find out how much climate change has been affecting the agricultural pattern, the agricultural land use pattern, etc., etc. And in this region, we fished out data from the Met department. There's been, very significant changes in the climate trend, and the climate extremes have gone up, etc., etc. There are statistically significant sort of trends for this region. The land use has changed significantly that Farida ji was, mentioning about. The land use from the cropland to the prawn farm or shrimp farm sort of embankments is kind of rampant in the entire district. And this region essentially is the region where farmers are essentially subsistence farmers. They're not big farmers. So you can imagine. So what and the government.
So I remember Parthiboda, what Dr. Ajit Banerjee once told me. Ajit Banerjee, many of you know that the person who created this joint forest management and it's an international model. He once told me that government basically getting withdrawn and it's not doing anything on ground. So and basically the people don't trust the government per se. Whatever the political party is, government is generally not being trusted by the people at large.
For them to be trusted in the first place, government has to be seen. People
Yes.
do not see the government. People are not trusting the government.
I remember that a couple of months back, I went to Sundarban. I should go to Sundarban very regularly. And I went to a place, it's called Monshoni Island. It's on the southernmost tip of Sundarban. And I went to a place where the embankment has been broken. And every day the saline water rushes into the buildings and then go out and all that, houses. And I said that, they said that we are here like this for so many years. It's 2-3 years last. So where is government? Where is Panchayat? He said, government, I haven't seen him. Almost saying the government is like a person. I haven't seen him. So that's very strange. I was shocked that government is not seen. So it's strange. To the large part of this country, maybe India, maybe Bangladesh, maybe other part of South Asia, government is basically absent. So
It's appalling. It's appalling.
It's appalling. Let go to very quickly to Anshuman. What about the rest part of South Asia? We discussed about India, we discussed about Bangladesh, but very quickly, how these issues of climate change and environment is panning out in other parts of South Asia? Very quickly, we are running out of time.
Yes. So very quickly, so in South Asia, starting from Nepal. So Nepal is also a very diverse country. But unfortunately, the same thing is getting repeated there, what Parthiba was also discussing. And I don't really see from the government side, there is something going on really. So
I can just hold. I can hear some background noise from somebody. I don't know from which part it's coming. So please take care because this. Okay, please go ahead. Anshuman.
So the same thing is happening actually in Nepal, in Bangladesh, in India, even in Pakistan. All these 4 or 5 countries, the government doesn't have a clue what to do actually. So they have
That's the general pattern.
Yeah,
That's the general pattern.
that's a general pattern. But what important is we have also ignored the kind of community knowledge that we have, the kind of knowledge that is existing there, that has also been ignored by the mainstream a lot.
So the traditional knowledge you're talking about.
Not only traditional, but also the recent knowledge. So people are
That's not being used. That's not being used.
They are always innovating.
So basically, we
That has
don't
not
have a
been
plan.
documented. Yeah.
Basically, we don't have a plan. Ashok Kumarji,
That's not ignored.
Ashok Kumarji, finally to you, forget about these farm bills, but we have so many suicides of farmers across the country. So it's very quite clear that everything was not well with the farming sector, with the agriculture sector. So as somebody representing the farming community in Punjab, I know you are working with NGOs for the organic and other. Where you have gone wrong? At one point of time, we were talking so kind of in a bloated manner about the green revolution, and now we are saying that green revolution has brought the cancers. So it's a complete paradigm shift of understanding. So what's your take on that, Ashok Kumarji? Where we have gone wrong? Where are the issues, major issues, other than these farm bills, on the environment, on the climate changes generally? Ashok Kumarji.
Yeah, that has already conveyed by farmer union leaders that MSP regime that was going on, that was already skewed for 2 crops only. So Punjab is not growing pulses or oilseed like essential food items for their own consumption either. And the big factors that Faridaji was talking about. So there was individualism. The farmland that the holding was very greater 20 or 30 years back, but it is reducing year by year. So the holding is reducing, and farmers are getting the families, they are getting disintegrated. So every household is trying to keep more and more machinery, and there are aspirations also, because a lot of Punjabis are there in Western world developed countries. So match their lifestyles. They have used many kind of gadgets or setups in their homes. So that is a major reason. And the cost of production is one thing that is increasing drastically. And the extensions are only one and only
production
reason
is affected drastically.
Yes. The cost of production is increasing. So what is happening is cost of production is increasing. That is reducing the profit margins. There is stagnation in the yield for last 20 years. So profit margin is lower, but cost of living has increased many folds. So one family.
Why the cost is increasing?
So it's a cost of everything, like fertilizers, diesel that is required to pull tractors, then pesticides, and then equipment they are purchasing. Like
Has the weather gone kind of erratic? The rainfall and other things gone erratic as well? Has the weather gone erratic?
yeah,
Is
that
the
is
weather
there. Punjab is
changing?
having the problems there. Yeah, it's erratic. It's very erratic.
It's very
It's very
erratic.
erratic. Like for paddy, Punjab is told that Punjab is growing paddy, and the climate change. What is causing is where there is a very limited time between paddy harvest and wheat sowing. That's why they are burning the stubbles.
Okay.
So that is the constraint that monsoon is very erratic. That is not able to refill the aquifers.
That's another issue
That's
of
the major
stubble
problem.
burning,
But
and
there is
that we
no
need to
alternative
discuss.
at all for that.
That I know is a very contentious issue. Okay, I think we had a great discussion. Just a one-line question to all of you, maybe starting with Farida ji, and then come to the Indian part. That do you think? Same question to all of you. Do you think how you see agriculture 20 years down the line? In one sentence, Farida ji, how you see agriculture in your country 20 years down the line? Improved, farther fallen down, or like that we are right now? Farida ji.
This agriculture has to go. This agriculture is not sustainable. And so the ecological agriculture, biodiversity-based agriculture has to come, and that is the solution. There is no other way that we can
Absolutely. Anshuman, same question.
So I'm not repeating what Farida ji has said. So definitely it has to go. If not, then we will see the food will completely become commodity. It will not become, it will be completely market driven, and it will just like any other, any other commodity. Yes,
it's
entirely market driven. Yeah.
Steel is a commodity. Parthiboda.
The business as usual scenario, I see down 20 years line. Why 20 years? In another 10 years time, our entire food system will be in the hands of the corporate, run by maybe 2 or 3 industrial corporate houses in the country. The alternative to that definitely is agroecological correction. I mean, there is no other option.
Okay. Ashok Kumar ji.
Yeah, corporate is definitely going to take over a larger part. But there is a sea shift in a farmer's approach. Cooperative system like Punjab is not having any cooperative system. So that kind of innovations will come up in next 10 or 12 years.
Okay.
But corporate is going to have a central stage.
So corporate is going to have that's where the whole discussion has started.
Yes.
That whether the corporates are going to take over the India's agriculture scenario or not. And it was initially being told that the farmers are fighting it out. But finally, we think we have all agreed that the present form of agriculture, whether there are the farm bills will be enacted or not, is not going to sustain. With this era of changing climate, with this era of changing environment, we need to rediscover and redefine agriculture in a way that is much more sustainable. As of now, as Ashok Kumar ji is talking about, that new innovations may be coming up. All of you are talking about, Parthiboda is talking about, Anshuman is talking about. But the only point is, this is a sector with which we cannot tickle. I completely agree with Parthiboda one point. It's a very risky affair to tickle with agriculture because it sustains and feeds you. So to do something about it without really knowing the consequences for a longer duration of time is extremely risky and may prove extremely vulnerable. So I think this discussion has opened up all these pointers, and definitely we will keep on tracking these issues in this South Asian Environment Dialogue, which is brought by a Canadian television channel, the Climate Channel, in collaboration with the Indian media platform, the Plural, and the No TV Bangla, Bangladesh YouTube channel. We'll keep on kind of having a close eye on this, and we all hope that something comes out. I'm not saying that the government winning or the farmers winning, but the country should win at the end of the day. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayantudha and others.